Welcome back to another episode of What Would the Gamer and You Do? This is episode 6. If you want to check out episodes 1 through 5, go ahead and check them out and let me know your guys' thoughts on them. But without further delay, let's go and get into episode 6 of What Would the Gamer and You Guys Do? So for this week, we actually have a Marvel Rivals question, which is pretty neat. It's a very popular game at the moment. There's a ton of characters always being introduced, and there's a ton of characters I haven't yet. So the question this week is, if the creators and developers of Marvel Rivals asked you to pick and create a Duelist character, so that's a DPS character, which would be your Moon Knight, Punisher, Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, etc. If they asked you to create a Duelist character, what would you guys do? So, remember, only focus Duelist, don't focus Vanguard, which are your tanks, and don't focus Strategists, which are your healers, mainly focus just DPS for this week. We'll get into the other ones in another episode. So, some criteria to consider would be to obviously, number one, pick a character, right? There's a ton of Marvel and MCU characters and comic characters that they have not introduced into the game yet. So pick a character, whoever it is, whether it's your favorite or somebody that you just think would be fun to introduce in the game, and tell me what his main attack ability is. So that is your basic attack ability. So Spider-Man, where he throws his punches, Punisher, where he shoots his weapon, Scarlet Witch, where she has her beam of energy that she locks onto people. What would the main attack ability be? Next would be to give me the character's moveset abilities. So those are the icons on the bottom right of the screen that have like the buttons that you have to click to activate them. Whether it's, Spider-Man's web tracers, Punisher's turret that he activates, Moon Knight's unks, so on and so forth. To get the idea, give me about 2 to 3 of those moveset abilities. And finally would be the ultimate move, right? Every character has an ultimate move that they charge up throughout the game, and they definitely always change the dynamic of the games. So what ultimate move would the character that you chose have? What would it be and what would it do? So to kick things off and to show you guys what I would do is I would introduce Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man has a lot of fun and unique tech that could be introduced into the game, and I think he would also be a fun character to play as. So I think introducing PIM technologies in Marvel Rivals would be a good way to go for a new DPS character. His main attack would actually mainly just be a melee. So similar to Spider-Man, when you're just kind of spamming Spider-Man's main attack, and it's a lot of just punches and kicks, it would be the same thing for Ant-Man. It would be maybe some 1-2, some hooks, some uppercuts, maybe a kick here and there. Just something really basic with his melee attack. And of course, I would also add ant control. We all know when Ant-Man puts on the suit, he can control ants once he masters the ability. So some kind of ant control I think would be needed if you introduced him as well. The first moveset I have for Ant-Man is called the Bullet Punch. So we all know Ant-Man can shrink down to ant size and use that as an advantage to attack his enemies. So the way this one works is he would select the target. He would then shrink and then dash towards the target, which he would then attack them with an uppercut, similar to maybe Spider-Man's uppercut that he has, where he knocks him back or he knocks him in the air. And it would be described as a bullet punch, right? He's tiny, small like a bullet, but he packs a heavy punch. So that's how Bullet Punch would work. His second ability would be the Ant Getaway. So as I said before, he can control ants. And this is similar to Scarlet Witch's phase that she has, where she can turn to like an orb and just fly around the map, whether it's to get away from combat, to get towards combat, or to get into advantageous spots. This kind of works in the same way. So when activated, Ant-Man will shrink down to a small form, where a flying ant will then come in and pick him up, and he will fly you to your point of interest. Again, whether it's away from battle, maybe you're taking too much damage, whether it's towards battle, or in any kind of advantageous spot, like in high ground, or maybe sneaking into backlines. That's how the ant getaway would work. The little ant would pick you up, you shrink, the little ant will pick you up and it'll fly you to a point of interest. The third thing I came up with, which I don't really know for sure which one I would add, so I think whatever would translate best to the game would be either the pin particle discs that he uses, where it's these small little discs that he throws, and when they come in contact with the object, it will either enlarge the object or shrink the object, or the sonic blast he has. There are some comic book lines where he gets suit enhancements and upgrades where he has like these sonic blasts in his wrist bracers, and whether they want to do it similar to Yellow Jacket from the movie where he has those blue blasts that he shoots out that do damage, or maybe even just a kind of repulsor where it's like the sonic blast that'll push an enemy back or stun them. I think that would be cool to add as well. Just whatever I think would translate better to the game and help the flow of the game a little bit better. And lastly, we have Ant-Man's ultimate move, which is pretty easy. I originally wanted to go with a Squirrel Girl, kind of old, with Squirrel Stampede, except maybe with ants, but then I thought, no, it's a little weird. I don't want ants running around everywhere on my screen, so let's go a different direction, which I went with Giant Man. And once Ant-Man's ult is fully charged, he will then activate his pin particles to turn him into Giant Man, which he will then turn into the biggest form that he can. And once turned into Giant Man, he will stomp on the ground. And anybody underneath his boot will be taking the majority of the damage, probably be eliminated, especially if you're low health. And once he stomps on the ground, it will send like a shockwave around his boot, so anybody around his boot will also take damage and will be knocked back as well. So if you're already low, you'll be eliminated. If not, you'll definitely take damage, and then he will eventually shriek back to his normal size. So that's what I would come up with if Marvel Rivals asked me to create a Duelist character for their game. So now I ask you guys, what would you guys do if Marvel Rivals reach out to you and ask you guys to create a Duelist character for their game? What would the gamer in you do? That's all for episode 6, and I'll see you guys in another episode. You guys take care.